What if the future of artificial intelligence in America suddenly, well, veered onto a completely new path? Like a dramatic 180-degree turn from where it was headed? Well, that's exactly what we're digging into today. Our mission in this deep dive is really to unpack this significant shift in America's AI policy. We want to help you understand the profound implications it holds for innovation, for our national infrastructure, and, frankly, for America's standing on the global stage.
It's a big deal. We're talking about the swift revocation of the previous administration's AI executive order, and then almost immediately the introduction of a new one. It fulfilled a clear campaign pledge, to roll back what he described as a dangerous measure. It really frames the stakes vividly, doesn't it, as nothing less than a high-stakes race to achieve global dominance in artificial intelligence. You're about to hear how one of the most transformative technologies of our time is being steered in, well, a radically new direction.
Okay, so let's maybe step back just a bit first. Before this sudden turn, what exactly was the Biden administration trying to achieve with their AI vision? What were its core ideas, the things that are now being overturned?
That's a really good place to start, yeah. Because understanding their approach, it really highlights the dramatic contrast we're seeing now. The Biden administration's vision, laid out in Executive Order 14110 back in October 2023, it was pretty sweeping. Its stated goal was safe, secure, and trustworthy development and use of artificial intelligence. They set out these 7 high-level objectives covering everything from safety, innovation, worker support.
Equity, civil rights, consumer protection.
Exactly. Privacy, federal government use, even international leadership. It was broad.
So a very sort of inclusive vision of what AI should be aiming for.
Precisely. And what's crucial to grasp here is that Biden's approach wasn't just about hitting the brakes. It was about building guardrails into the very foundation of AI development. It was comprehensive. It imposed, I think, 150 distinct requirements on more than 50 federal agencies, a real whole-of-government response.
Wow, okay. 150 requirements.
Yeah. For instance, it directed the Commerce Department to require reports on higher-risk AI systems. It even extended to infrastructure as a service providers, or IaaS, asking them to report contracts with foreign entities if they were training large AI models. The overarching message was sort of, AI is incredible, sure, but it also carries potential dangers, so it needs regulation to guide its growth responsibly.
But then, almost overnight, like you said, everything changed. January 20, 2025, President Trump revokes Biden's order 21110, day one of his second term. Just 3 days later, January 23rd, he issues his own executive order 21179, boldly titled Removing Barriers to American Leadership in Artificial Intelligence. This new order, it articulates a national AI policy aiming to, and I'm quoting here, sustain and enhance America's global AI dominance in order to promote human flourishing, economic competitiveness, and national security. It certainly paints a picture, doesn't it? One of unbridled potential versus, well, something else.
What's truly fascinating and maybe a bit jarring is just how quickly and completely this philosophical pendulum has swung. One administration's necessary guardrails become another's bureaucratic red tape. It's quite the shift. The new administration's America's AI Action Plan, which came out in July 2025, it frames AI basically as a winner-take-all competition between great powers, primarily thinking about China. The explicit aim is to unleash the full power of American innovation, and it directly rejects what they call radical climate dogma and bureaucratic red tape.
Right.
There was even a tech reporter who famously summarized the new message as something like, "Forget about the dangers. It's going to be great. Let's go full steam ahead and give us a bunch of money to help do it."
There's that interesting detail, too, that apparently they prefer to avoid the term artificial intelligence itself, with the president quoted saying he prefers genius because I don't like anything that's artificial.
Yes, that terminology shift is definitely part of the narrative.
So, okay, beyond the philosophy, the wording, what does this actually mean on the ground? Let's dig into Pillar Y of this new AI action plan. Accelerating innovation and removing red tape.
Yeah, this is really where the rubber meets the road, as they say. The commitment is very clear. Remove red tape and onerous regulation. And that's at both state and federal levels. Agencies like the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, they're now tasked with identifying, revising, or just outright repealing regulations that are seen as hindering AI development.
Okay, so when you talk about this deregulatory push, what are some of the most immediate, maybe tangible impacts that listeners might see, say in terms of new AI products coming out or even how they interact with AI day to day?
Well, you might see faster development cycles for AI products, simply because companies face fewer compliance hurdles. And for you as a consumer, That could mean a more rapid introduction of new AI-powered services, maybe new features appearing quicker. We're also seeing a review of Federal Trade Commission investigations, the FTC, that's the agency protecting consumers. The idea is to make sure those investigations don't unduly burden AI innovation.
Unduly burden. That sounds like it could mean less enforcement.
It suggests we can probably expect less stringent federal enforcement, yeah, particularly around allegations of fairness, bias, and discrimination in AI systems. And for employers, it means a reduced federal compliance burden. They're no longer subject to mandatory reporting or specific Labor Department guidance on AI potentially being used in discriminatory ways for hiring. The goal is clearly stated: free up American businesses to innovate without, unnecessary government hurdles getting in the way.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting, I think, especially if you've been following any of the debates around AI output, what these models actually say. A prominent focus of this new policy is combating what's been termed woke AI models and this perceived political bias in AI outputs. The president himself stated directly, quote, "The American people do not want woke Marxist lunacy in the AI models." That's a strong claim, woke Marxist lunacy. But, how does a government actually define that or even measure political bias in an AI model? And what happens if they get that definition wrong?
That's a crucial question, absolutely. And it really highlights a significant ideological component baked into this policy shift. There are specific directives. For example, revising the National Institute of Standards and Technology's AI risk management framework, that's NIST, to eliminate references to things like misinformation, diversity, equity and inclusion, and climate change.
Wow, okay. Striking those terms out.
Exactly. And federal procurement guidelines are being updated. The government will only contract with large language model developers. The big AI systems like ChatGPT that generate text, only if their systems are deemed objective and free from top-down ideological bias. So the administration clearly views AI not as politically neutral, but as systems that need active scrutiny for their political perspectives to make sure they pursue objective truth.
So this is likely to really change how some AI gets developed, right? And it'll directly affect the kind of output you might get from AI platforms that have federal contracts. It's a profound shift in how we might think about AI, not just as a tool, but as something whose underlying values are under direct government examination.
Exactly. And it's not all about restrictions either. The plan also actively encourages open source and open weight AI models.
Okay, so making the code public.
Yeah, the underlying code, so sometimes even the trained parameters, are made publicly available. This is seen as valuable because it lets anyone inspect them, build on them, challenge the assumptions baked in. It also aims to improve the financial market for computing power. Sometimes that's tied up in long-term contracts with big providers. The idea is to promote a more dynamic market for compute access.
And they're pushing a try-first culture, too, setting up regulatory sandboxes or AI centers of excellence.
That's right. The goal seems to be speeding up AI adoption across American industries, which is seen as critical for staying ahead in this, global race we talked about.
Makes sense. And what about the workforce? Is there a plan for American workers in all this?
Yes. The administration emphasizes what they call a worker-first AI agenda. The aim is to have AI complement work, not just replace it. So this involved prioritizing AI skill development through education, workforce training, apprenticeships. They're even clarifying things like tax-free reimbursement for AI-related training from employers, and establishing an AI workforce research hub under the Department of Labor, the DOL, to study AI's impact on the labor market and fund rapid retraining for people whose jobs might be displaced by AI.
So trying to make sure workers aren't left behind.
That's the stated goal, yes. Ensuring American workers are prepared to thrive in this emerging AI-driven economy.
And it seems to extend into national capabilities, too. Big investments mentioned in AI for science-automated labs, data sets, and next-gen manufacturing, like drones and robotics.
Definitely. And accelerating AI adoption within federal agencies themselves is another piece. Formalizing coordination through the Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer Council, the CIIC. Creating an AI procurement toolbox for agencies.
And they're even looking at combating synthetic media deepfakes.
Yes, leveraging NIST's Guardians of Forensic Evidence program and providing Department of Justice guidance on deepfake standards for, legal proceedings. It's a pretty comprehensive vision for boosting American AI capability across the board.
Okay, that's a lot under Pillar 1. Let's move to Pillar 2. Building American AI infrastructure. This sounds crucial.
Absolutely crucial. The administration clearly recognizes that AI demands, vastly greater energy generation. You can't run these massive models without massive power, and that means you need a significant push for new infrastructure.
Right. And a critical focus here seems to be streamlined permitting for data centers, semiconductor manufacturing facilities, and energy infrastructure. The actions sound quite direct, establishing new categorical exclusions under NEPA, the Environmental Policy Act for data centers, expediting permits under the Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act. So what's the core trade-off being made here? And, who benefits and who might be concerned?
The aim is clearly to accelerate construction, build faster. And yes, this is happening despite concerns raised by environmental groups about energy consumption, water usage, pollution. The plan even includes making federal lands available for building data centers and power generation facilities.
Wow. Federal lands, too.
Yeah, it signals a pretty clear preference for rapid build-out, for economic opportunity, potentially over environmental considerations. That's a significant policy choice.
And it connects directly to developing the energy grid, right, to match AI's hunger for power.
Exactly. The strategy is enhance and expand the grid, prevent premature decommissioning of existing power sources, and embrace new ones, enhance geothermal, nuclear fission, maybe even fusion down the line. There's a clear recognition that a robust energy supply is basically the lifeblood of AI dominance, especially as these models keep getting bigger and hungrier for electricity.
And semiconductors are key here, too. The plan aims to restore semiconductor manufacturing back to U.S. soil.
Critically important. This isn't just about jobs, though that's part of it. It's about reinforcing leadership in this fundamental technology and protecting our supply chains from disruption. The focus is on delivering a strong ROI for taxpayers and removing what the administration calls extraneous policy requirements for projects funded by the GPS Act. Get those fabs built efficiently.
Makes sense. You need the chips to run the AI.
You absolutely do. They're the building blocks.
And Pillar P2 also touches on national security directly, building high-security data centers.
Yes, data centers specifically designed to be resistant to nation-state attacks for military and intelligence community use. And there's also a strong push to bolster cybersecurity for critical infrastructure more broadly, setting up an AI Information Sharing and Analysis Center, an AI ISAC, and promoting secure by design AI technologies. It's about hardening our digital foundations.
Okay, so we've covered innovation and infrastructure. Let's zoom out to the international stage. Pillars the third, leading in international AI diplomacy and security.
Right. And the ambition here doesn't stop at the U.S. borders. The new administration has a very clear strategy for how American AI should interact with the world. The goal is ambitious. Export American AI to allies and partners. Basically, leverage U.S. leadership in computing hardware and AI models to make American AI the gold standard worldwide.
That's a pretty bold goal. The gold standard, how are they planning to do that?
Well, they're talking about programs within the Department of Commerce, the DOC, to gather proposals for full-stack AI export packages.
Full stack.
Meaning everything, the hardware, the software, the models, maybe even the training support. The idea is to ensure American technology becomes the foundation for AI development globally, not just here at home.
And this ties directly into competition with China.
Explicitly, yes. The administration intends to, quote, vigorously advocate for international AI governance approaches that promote innovation, reflect American values, and counter authoritarian influence. Particularly influence from China, which they note has been trying to shape international standards for things like facial recognition and surveillance technology.
So it's about setting the rules of the road globally, based on American principles.
And part of that involves actively evaluating Chinese AI models for alignment with Chinese Communist Party talking points and censorship practices. It's a strategic push to define the global AI landscape on American terms.
And to back that up, there's a focus on strengthening export controls, denying access to adversaries.
That's right. Denying foreign adversaries access to advanced AI compute power and the technologies needed to manufacture advanced chips. They're exploring things like location verification features on chips, developing new export controls on semiconductor manufacturing subsystems. It's about keeping critical tech out of the wrong hands.
And biosecurity is mentioned too, preventing AI from being used to create pathogens.
Yes, investing in biosecurity to prevent malicious actors from using AI tools to, say, design or synthesize harmful pathogens. This involves requiring robust screening procedures for federally funded research institutions working in relevant areas.
Seems prudent. What about the military aspect? The Department of Defense?
The DoD has a significant role here, yes. They're tasked with driving AI adoption and warfighting, but also in back-office operations to improve efficiency. They're developing something called an AI and autonomous systems virtual proving ground, though the exact nature, whether it's physical or simulation, is still a bit vague,
Okay.
and making senior military colleges into hubs of AI research, development, and talent building, trying to cultivate that expertise within the military structure. The plan also ensures the military gets priority access to cloud providers and computing services, especially for wartime use. It's all geared towards maintaining military preeminence in an AI-powered future.
Okay, so that covers the three main pillars of the action plan. But like with any major policy shift, there are always other perspectives, criticisms.
Absolutely. And it's important for you, the listener, to consider these two.
For instance, some critics, especially looking from Europe, they view this new approach as maybe America first, ethics second. They argue it risks sidelining concerns about national security and public welfare in favor of, well, profit-driven innovation.
It's a powerful critique, isn't it? The core concern there, especially given AI's inherent dual-use nature, civilian tech easily weaponized, is that this unregulated mindset might empower private companies to prioritize short-term gains. And that could lead to a really fragmented, maybe even dangerous trajectory for AI globally. It raises that question. Who's ultimately responsible when tech designed for good gets twisted?
And it's not just the ethical angle. Even looking at the policy's practical effectiveness, groups like the Brookings Institution have criticized it for being, well, vague. They say it fails to propose clear solutions for key areas like privacy protection or general AI safety beyond just the ideological bias aspect, or even deepfakes.
Right. They argue that with AI moving so incredibly fast, maybe a more precautionary principle would be a smarter strategy.
It's like, okay, you want to hit the accelerator, but have you really checked the brakes and the road conditions for this new speed?
Exactly. The concern is that by focusing so heavily on what AI can achieve, maybe we're not spending enough time thinking about what it might break along the way.
Then there's that interesting critique from the Competitive Enterprise Institute. They suggest that despite all the talk about deregulation, things like the Department of Energy building federal AI infrastructure or expanding subsidies for AI exports, they argue that actually reflects a top-down, government-first posture.
So it contradicts the free enterprise rhetoric.
That's their argument.
Yeah.
They see it as industrial policy in practice, not really pure deregulation despite the label.
And the economic impact of potential trade friction is another big area of concern highlighted in some reports. Escalating trade wars, tariffs on critical minerals or semiconductor chips, these could actually undermine America's AI ambitions, right? By increasing costs for essential components, disrupting those vital supply chains. That could potentially hinder innovation, especially for smaller tech startups who face higher barriers to entry. And there's also a related risk of fostering what some call aggressive AI nationalism or isolationism, which could ironically harm the very open-source culture that's fueled so much AI progress.
Unintended consequences. And finally, what about that political bias definition?
Right. Critics point out that defining political bias in AI is really unclear and highly debated. This raises concerns that the government might end up unfairly targeting certain companies based on perceived ideology, or maybe even protecting discriminatory speech under the guise of fighting bias. It blurs lines.
Yeah, figuring out what's objective in AI is tricky.
Very tricky. So yeah, lots of different angles to consider on this whole shift.
Definitely. So just to wrap up then, you've heard about this really rapid, decisive shift in America's AI policy. We've gone from a previous emphasis on safety, broad ethical guidelines, extensive federal agency requirements, to now an America-first, deregulation-driven approach, one focused intensely on achieving global dominance and accelerating innovation.
It's a major strategic reorientation, no doubt about it, aimed squarely at cementing American leadership in this critical technology. But it leaves us with some big questions. In this high-stakes global race for AI dominance, what unseen trade-offs might we be making when speed and unshackling innovation are prioritized above almost everything else? And how will future generations ultimately balance this pursuit of genius, as the administration calls it, with the potentially profound implications of an increasingly unfettered technological frontier?
A lot to think about. Thanks for breaking that down for us.
My pleasure. It's a fascinating and incredibly important topic right now.